Title: The most impressive megaprojects of the 20th century, imagine shaping the Earth's crust, triggering hundreds of earthquakes, and building the most powerful nuclear facility on the planet. These aren't scenes from a sci-fi movie, but real projects from the 20th century that transformed how we live, travel, and power our world. I'm Regis, and in this story, we're diving into the most astonishing megaprojects of the past century. From cities built from scratch to engineering feats that defied nature. Brasilia, Brazil's ambitious new capital back in the 1950s. Brazil faced a serious issue. Most of its people lived along the coastline, especially in bustling cities like Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. The vast interior of the country, full of potential, remained largely uninhabited. This imbalance was holding back Brazil's economic growth. The solution? Move the nation's capital inland to a central location and develop the interior. While this idea wasn't new, it was actually proposed as far back as 1823. It finally came to life in 1956, when President Juscelino Kubitschek pledged to achieve 50 years of progress in just 5. The government chose a remote plateau, 1,100 meters above sea level, and laid out plans for a city with a very unique shape from the sky. It looked like an airplane or a bird in flight. Each section was carefully organized. Government buildings ran along the fuselage, while residential areas stretched out into the wings. Construction went on 24/7, and remarkably, by April 21, 1960, the city was ready. Brasilia officially became Brazil's new capital. UNESCO took notice. In 1987, it designated Brasilia a World Heritage Site, the first modern city ever to receive that honor. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. While the government offices were finished on time, many essential services lagged behind. The city's design also made everyday life tough. Distances were so large that walking anywhere was exhausting. Even so, Brasilia achieved its goal. It brought development to the interior. Today, it's home to around 3 million people. And on the first Sunday of every month, the world's largest regularly raised flag, a 286-square-meter Brazilian banner, waves proudly, larger than many of the apartments in the city itself. The Petronas Towers, Malaysia's symbol of progress. Next, we head to Kuala Lumpur in the 1990s. At the time, Malaysia's capital was growing fast, but lacked a distinctive identity. The government wanted an iconic landmark, something that would put the city and the country on the map. That dream became the Petronas Towers. Work began in 1992, led by the national oil company Petronas and inspired by traditional Islamic geometric designs. The tower's floor plan was based on interlocking 8-pointed stars, symbols of unity, harmony, and balance. Construction kicked off in 1993. In a move that turned the build into a high-stakes race, 2 different companies were hired, one from Japan for Tower 1 and one from South Korea for Tower 2. Both competed to see who could reach the top first. Beneath each tower lay an enormous foundation, a 4.6-meter thick slab supported by 104 concrete piles, driven as deep as 114 meters into the ground. Each tower weighed as much as 30 Eiffel Towers. Rather than steel, engineers chose high-strength reinforced concrete, which was not only cheaper, but allowed for more flexible shapes. At the 41st and 42nd floors, a unique double-decker skybridge connected the 2 towers, the highest of its kind in the world. Ingeniously, it was designed to slide in and out of the towers as they swayed in strong winds. When the towers were completed in 1998, they stood as the tallest buildings on Earth, just edging out the Sears Tower in Chicago by 10 meters. While some architects debated the legitimacy of the claim, there was no denying the tower's impact. Though Taipei 101 eventually took the title in 2004, the Petronas Towers remained the tallest twin towers in the world, and more importantly, they became the unmistakable symbol of a rising Malaysia. World Trade Center, New York's twin icon. If you visited New York City before 2001, the Twin Towers were impossible to miss, towering over the skyline like giant exclamation marks. Together, they formed the heart of Lower Manhattan's World Trade Center complex. The idea began in 1962 when the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey unveiled plans for the tallest buildings on Earth. Construction began on August 5, 1966, but the site posed huge challenges. Built on a landfill near the Hudson River, the team had to dig 21 meters down to reach solid bedrock and keep the river from flooding in. They used a revolutionary method, called a slurry trench to build a watertight foundation, which became known as the bathtub. There was another obstacle. The path commuter train line ran straight through the site. Instead of rerouting it, engineers built a protective structure around the track so trains could keep running, even as workers built skyscrapers around them. The North Tower was completed in 1970 and stood at 417 meters. The South Tower followed. In 1971, these buildings weren't just tall, they were innovative. Traditional skyscrapers rely on internal columns for strength, but the Twin Towers used their exterior walls to carry much of the load, allowing for more open interior spaces. The elevator system was inspired by subways. Express elevators brought passengers to sky lobbies where they could switch to local elevators to reach their final floor. In 1993, a terrorist bomb detonated in the parking garage below, killing 6 and injuring over 1,000. Despite the damage, the towers stood firm, a testament to their robust design. Though destroyed in the tragic events of 9/11s, the legacy of the Twin Towers continues. Their structural innovations influenced skyscrapers around the world, from France to Germany, and they remain a powerful symbol in architecture and memory.
Kashiwazaki Kariwa, the world's largest nuclear power plant. On Japan's western coast, about 220 kilometers northwest of Tokyo, stands the Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power plant, the largest of its kind in the world. With 7 reactors generating 8 gigawatts of power, it can supply electricity to around 16 million homes, nearly an eighth of Japan's population. But why was such a huge facility necessary? Japan has almost no fossil fuel reserves. It imports about 90% of its energy, one of the highest rates globally. So during the 1970s oil crisis, the Japanese government made a strategic decision: go nuclear. Construction of the Kashiwazaki Kariwa plant began in 1980. The first reactor came online in 1985, and by 1994, all 7 were operational. Built with deep foundations anchored into the bedrock, essential for an earthquake-prone country, the plant was designed to handle extreme conditions. In 1996, it launched the world's first advanced boiling water reactor, which included improved efficiency and safer internal water circulation systems. But those features would soon face real-world tests. In 2004, a 6.6 magnitude earthquake hit. The plant handled it well. But in 2007, another quake, this one even closer, caused a fire and a leak of radioactive water. Hundreds of barrels of waste fell over, and part of the fuel storage system cracked. The plant shut down for inspections and reopened in 2009 with upgraded safety systems. Then came the Fukushima disaster in 2011. While Kashiwazaki Kariwa wasn't directly affected, it prompted a national reevaluation of nuclear energy. The plant was shut down again, reinforced with a 15-meter seawall and modern safety upgrades. Though it's ready to restart, it still awaits local approval. Hoover Dam, powering the American Southwest. Now let's head to the American Southwest and one of the most iconic infrastructure projects in U.S. history, the Hoover Dam. At the turn of the 20th century, the Colorado River was a powerful but unpredictable force. In 1905, it broke its banks and flooded 40,000 hectares of farmland, forming the massive Salton Sea by accident. After years of debate, Congress approved plans for a dam in 1928. Construction began in 1931, during the Great Depression, offering thousands of desperately needed jobs. But the conditions were brutal. Desert heat often hit 48 degrees Celsius, and workers labored around the clock in 3 shifts. First, engineers had to reroute the entire Colorado River through 4 huge tunnels blasted through canyon walls. Then came the dam itself, 221 meters tall, with a base as thick as 200 meters. The structure was so massive, it actually changed the Earth's crust. The pressure from the dam and Lake Mead, the reservoir it created, shifted the ground nearly a meter, triggering over 600 small earthquakes. Construction was dangerous. Officially, 96 workers died. The first was J.G. Tierney in 1922. Tragically, 14 years later to the day, his son Patrick became the last to die on the project. Despite the risks, Hoover Dam was finished ahead of schedule and under budget. It controlled flooding, powered cities, and made made farming in the desert possible. During World War II, the government even stationed armed guards there to protect it from sabotage. Today, it generates power for 1.3 million people and irrigates over 400,000 hectares of farmland. But with ongoing droughts, Lake Mead has hit historic lows, just 30% full in 2023. If levels fall further, the dam could reach dead pool status, unable to release water at all. Panama Canal, a shortcut that changed global trade. Our final stop takes us to Central America, where the Panama Canal stands as one of the most important waterways in the world. Alongside the Suez Canal, it revolutionized global shipping. Before it existed, ships had to sail all the way down to South America's tip through the treacherous Strait of Magellan, a dangerous and time-consuming route. The first attempt to build the canal began in 1881 by a French company, but disease decimated the workforce. Over 22,000 workers died from yellow fever and malaria. In 1903, the U.S. took over. Instead of digging a sea-level canal, they opted for a lock system to lift ships up 26 meters to a man-made lake and then lower them back down. Over the next 10 years, workers moved more earth than 130 Empire State Buildings in volume. The canal opened in 1914 and immediately changed global trade. Today, it handles over 10,000 ships annually, carrying 500 million tons of cargo. Big ships pay tolls up to $500,000, but the time saved makes it worthwhile. By 2016, trade had grown.
The most impressive megaprojects of the 20th century, written in simple English, human tone, correct grammar, and expanded introduction. Imagine a project so massive it bent the Earth's crust and triggered hundreds of earthquakes, or a nuclear plant so powerful it could supply electricity to millions of homes. The 20th century was full of incredible engineering feats that changed the way we live, move, and power our world. Hi, I'm Regis, and today, we're going on a journey through time to explore some of the most remarkable megaprojects built during the 1900s. These were not just giant construction efforts, they were bold visions that reshaped cities, transformed countries, and inspired future generations. Part, the dream of Brasilia, a capital results from the wilderness. Let's begin in Brazil, with a bold experiment that turned an empty stretch of land into a futuristic capital city. Why move the capital? Back in the 1950s, Brazil faced a big problem. Most of its people lived near the coast, especially in cities like Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. The middle of the country was almost empty. This created an unfair situation. The coastal cities were booming, while the rest of Brazil remained underdeveloped. To fix this, the government came up with a radical solution: move the capital to the center of the country. That way they could encourage growth and development inland, where nothing much had been happening. This wasn't a brand new idea. In fact, way back in 1823, a man named José Bonifacio had already proposed it, but for over 130 years, no one made it happen. That changed in 1956. When President Juscelino Kubitschek came to power, he made a bold promise: Brazil would achieve 50 years of progress in just 5. One of his main goals: build a brand new capital city right in the heart of the country. Building a city from nothing, they chose a high, flat area, about 1,100 meters above sea level. The deadline: April 21, 1960, just 4 years to create an entire city from scratch. Looking at Brasilia from above, you'd think it was shaped like an airplane, or maybe a bird in flight. That's because the layout was carefully designed to reflect movement and progress. Government offices were built along the body, and residential areas stretched out like wings. Construction didn't stop for a second. Day and night, workers poured concrete, laid roads, and put up buildings. And unbelievably, by the set date, April 21, 1960, Brasilia was ready to open as Brazil's new capital. What made it special? Brasilia was a marvel. Its architecture was futuristic, with buildings that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi movie. In 1987, UNESCO honored it by naming it a World Heritage Site, the first modern city ever to receive that recognition. But not everything was perfect. The city's design, while beautiful, made it hard to get around on foot. Buildings were far apart, and sidewalks weren't a priority. Plus, many areas lacked schools, shops, and hospitals during the early years. Still, the main goal was met. Brasilia pulled growth into the country's interior. Today, it's home to nearly 3 million people. And if you visit on the first Sunday of any month, you can watch a special event, the changing of the largest regularly hoisted flag in the world, a Brazilian flag bigger than most city apartments. Part 2. The Petronas Towers. Malaysia's rise into the sky. Now we fly across the ocean to Malaysia. If Brasilia showed how an entire city could be built from scratch, the Petronas Towers proved that one iconic building could change a country's image. The need for a symbol. In the 1990s, Kuala Lumpur was growing fast, but it lacked a landmark, something the world would instantly recognize. The Malaysian government wanted to put its capital on the map with a bold statement of progress and modernity. So, in 1992, the government partnered with Petronas, the national oil company, to begin a project that would stun the world. Design meets culture. The architect behind the towers used Islamic geometry for inspiration. The floor plan was based on two interlocking 8-pointed stars, a symbol often found in Islamic art. These shapes represented harmony, unity, and strength. Construction began in 1993, and it quickly turned into a race. Two construction companies were hired: a Japanese team for Tower 1 and a South Korean team for Tower 2. Each side raced to finish their tower first. Floor by floor, built to be bold, the foundation for each tower was massive. A thick concrete slab, nearly 5 meters deep, sat on 104 concrete pillars that went deep underground. Instead of steel, they used strong reinforced concrete, which was cheaper and better suited for Malaysia's weather. And right in the middle was the crown jewel, a sky bridge connecting the two towers on the 41st and 42nd floors. It hangs 170 meters above the ground, making it the highest double-decker sky bridge in the world. But here's the cool part: it's not fixed. It can move slightly to handle strong winds without damaging the structure. Breaking records. By 1998, the Petronas Towers were finished, and they weren't just impressive, they became the tallest buildings in the world, beating Chicago's Sears Tower by just 10 meters. They held the title until 2004, when Taipei 101 in Taiwan was completed. But even today, they remain the tallest twin towers on Earth, and a powerful symbol of Malaysia's ambition and identity. Coming up next, the World Trade Center. How New York's skyline changed forever. Japan's giant nuclear plant that faced earthquake after earthquake. The Hoover Dam, the wall that tamed a wild river, and the Panama Canal, the shortcut that reshaped global trade.